That is correct. We are here for you. It is, well, as they say, it is showtime. So let's go.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
Week 14 in the National Football League, and you're trying to get into the fantasy postseason. We hope you made it, and we are here for you at Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, talking Buccaneers and Falcons, Bloom.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a game that was more exciting than I thought it was going to be? Thank you, Desmond Ridder. Thank you, Drake London. We'll get to the Falcons side in just a little bit, but it is Tampa Bay winning 29-25 is that final score. Let's talk about Baker, the baby maker, 14 or 29, 144, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Rashad White getting 1 receiving touchdown, 2 for 33. Then Kate Otten getting a receiving touchdown, 2 for 16. Chris Godwin, 5 for 53. He was making plays. Mike Evans, 1 for 8. 6 targets. Rashad White also 25 for 102. And Baker had a rushing touchdown to help his team along the way as they couldn't stop Drake London. More on that in a little bit, Bloom. Let's talk about the Bucs side.
Yeah, this was a big game. Usually in week 14 in the NFL, we're wanting to achieve more clarity. And for fantasy, maybe we achieve some more clarity about some players, about some teams, some offenses, some defenses. But as far as the playoff picture, no, the playoff picture is getting blurrier and blurrier. And maybe it's not just because you were having some pops during these games. Baker Mayfield, as of today, would be starting a home playoff game, as this game was for first place in the NFC South. Now you have a 3-way tie at 6 and 7, but Tampa owns the tiebreakers. Tampa controls their destiny. New Orleans, we'll talk about, controls their destiny. Atlanta, because of this loss, does not. Very little offense for most of this game for Baker Mayfield. Carlton Davis had a pick of Desmond Ridder on the doorstep, and Baker got a rushing touchdown. There was a safety. That was pretty much the offense for most of 3 quarters. And then you had another Rashad White screen pass touchdown. He's looking tremendous. He's getting stronger as the year goes on. Under the radar story there, that's his backfield now going forward. Mike Evans got canceled out by A.J. Terrell, had an almost amazing touchdown, put his hand down just before the second foot, which I don't even know how he got in. And Kate Otten catches the go-ahead touchdown, 12-play, 70-yard drive. The offense comes alive when it needs to. And the classic Bay of Pigs game in Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, next week.
Yeah, let's talk about the Atlanta side. And, well, I teased it already, Bloom, but Drake London, unstoppable, 10 for 172. Kyle Pitts, 3 for 57 and a touchdown. Bijan Robinson, 5 for 54 as a receiver, also 10 for 34 and a rushing touchdown. Ridder had a rushing touchdown, had 347 yards passing, 1 up and 1 down, 1 INT, 1 touchdown. But let's discuss what happened as the Falcons made it a little bit more intense, but just fell short.
Yeah, Ridder having his second great fantasy day in 2 games against the Bucs, and you'll think about that with Jordan Love next week. You also had Desmond Ridder. Well, there were ups and there were downs in this game. The terrible interception. There was 1 easy touchdown pass he had to Bijan Robinson that he missed. There was a couple of fumbles, thankfully, that were recovered by Falcons. And then there were also passes to wide open Kyle Pitts for a touchdown. A lot of passes to an open Drake London. Also, Younghoe Koo missed a couple of field goals, or this game could have turned out differently. A lot of things went wrong for Atlanta, but Drake London made some things go right. There was one pass, Antoine Winfield, this is on the drive, that gave Atlanta the lead. A lot of back and forth lead changes in the fourth quarter. Antoine Winfield was parked under it like a center fielder, ready to catch the ball. And Drake London said, "No, that's mine," and jumped in front of him. A spectacular catch that set up a game would have had Desmond Ridder as the hero. Instead, it was Baker Mayfield. And go to Carolina next week. Again, they don't control their destiny, but Atlanta could still have a chance to win this division as long as the Saints and the Bucs each lose 1 more game.
Detroit is showing some flaws. I want to be nice, Bloom. They are incredibly beatable, and we saw that today, 28-13, the Bears over the Detroit Lions. So let's talk about this, and let's see if they can figure it out. They got a hot Broncos team coming to town next week in Detroit. But either way, I tease next week because it is a Broncos show, but it's a Lions show right now. And what the hell happened? 28-13. I'll just toss it to y'all, baby, for the Lions side. Let's talk
Sure,
Lions.
sure.
I got plenty to say about the Bears, but the Lions are a team that you enjoy, and they look like garbage today.
Yeah. See, well, every now and then, a few times a year, they make you acknowledge there's a baseball team in Denver, right? The Rockies.
Yes.
It's a team built for the stadium. It's built even for the conditions, right? The mile-high air. They always have a lot of sluggers. It's really pointless to be a pitcher. They're built for the stadium. You take the Rockies out of Denver, and they don't look like the same team. That's this Jared Goff Lions offense outside. The splits, sometimes we look at these splits, and there might not be meaning to them. They are meaning to these splits. Outdoors, Jared Goff strikes again. At least you had a Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown. You had not much else, really. Everybody else was a victim of this. Josh Reynolds got the receiving touchdown. Donovan Peoples-Jones even got involved. So the good news for Detroit is they don't have, at least for the 3 fantasy playoff weeks, the good news if you have Lions players, they're all going to be indoors. This is not a team I think that's going to have the road to the Super Bowl go through Detroit. So they are going to have to play outdoors in the playoffs. That's probably where it comes to an end for them. But thankfully, this week was not a fantasy playoff week for a lot of leagues. So hopefully it did not bring your fantasy season to an end.
Yeah, well, what do you think about Justin Fields, who just like, I'll just do everything. 19 to 33, 223, 1 touchdown, no INTs, 12 for 58, and a rushing touchdown from him. DJ Moore with his first rushing touchdown of his career, 3 for 20 and a rushing touchdown. Dante Foreman, 11 for 50, as this backfield is confounding because Khalil Herbert's there, Roshan Johnson's there, but it's Foreman who gets 11 for 50 in this one. DJ Moore also had 6 for 68 and a receiving touchdown. Cole Kmet 5 for 66. Darnell Mooney good for 2 for 44 in this one. But let's break it down. And well, what do we know about these Bears, Bloom? Because it's like they're considering Eric Bieniemy and moving on from Matt Eberflus. Okay, I get that, but well, they look good today.
Yeah, what we know. And Cecil, I think what we know is that Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback of this team probably through the era of the next head coach, or he may get the next head coach fired. But he's continuing to show that for the flaws in his passing, every time you watch Justin Fields, there are a couple of throws that like 2/3 of the quarterbacks in the NFL starting week 1 could have made that he misses. But then he also does things. This wasn't his 4th straight 100-yard game. He had 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. Love that for fantasy. Coming into this one against the Lions, he almost had 50 like in the first quarter, then slowed down as a runner, but still an elite fantasy quarterback today. Even against Cleveland next week, we're not really that scared of him. And you have Cole Kmet. He's back in your lineup. DJ Moore is an elite fantasy wide receiver with Justin Fields. So that worked out. Even though Dante Foreman didn't do much, I think it is his backfield. What a change that was, right? Healthy scratch, beginning of the year. It's his backfield now. So as long as this offense is as viable as it is when Justin Fields is playing well, Dante Foreman has some value, at least as desperation depth. And look, this game was 13-13. This was a close game in the second half. And then Fields hit DJ Moore on a 4th and 13 for a touchdown. Yes, this was not Dan Campbell. This was the Bears going for on 4th and 13. Then Goff fumbles an exchange. Then Fields gets a rushing touchdown, and the game kind of got out of hand. The Lions were able to come back from that kind of deficit at home against the Bears, but not on the road. And yeah, Chicago, you got to love it. I think you got your quarterback. I think you got the number 1 pick. I think you got a future.
I think we got exactly. I think we got Colts and Bengals, and I think Jake Browning's a lot better than anyone gave him credit for. Us, everyone out there, like, yep. And Chase Brown, they said it was going to happen, and it happened. We'll get to that in a little bit. But 34-14, the Bengals beating the Colts. Both these teams are now 7-6, and playoffs. A lot of playoff themes today.
Oh yeah.
Gardner Minshew 240, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. Michael Pittman 8 for 95. Will Mallory, love the U, 5 for 46. Josh Downs 3 for 32. Oh, Zach Moss 13 for 28. Okay. Just couldn't get much going while the Bengals offense was like a well-oiled machine, Bloom. We'll save Cincinnati. Let's talk Colts now.
Yeah, you're looking at Indy's schedule. They're facing all these backup crappy quarterbacks. Well, it looked that way. Maybe they were the one with the backup crappy quarterback in this one. And as their playoff fortunes took a hit here, it was even worse than it looked. One of the touchdowns was a defensive touchdown. So Zach Moss, remember how surprising it was, rushing league leaders, fantasy stud when Jonathan Taylor was out, even delaying Jonathan Taylor taking this backfield back over. Well, now he looks like the guy we remember from Buffalo. So it's going to be tough. We'll see if Taylor can get back on the field next week against the Steelers. Oh, man, that's going to be bad football. Bad football. You did have Michael Pittman, and that's it. Last week we saw Alec Pierce get involved in the deep game. That wasn't clicking here. And is this a playoff team? There's a lot of team seats we're going to ask in the AFC. Really? This is a playoff? I mean, some of these 7-6 teams, hopefully Buffalo's one of them. And I'm sorry for anybody who has to see the Steelers and Colts in person next week.
Yeah, that's not good. Bengals side better because Jake Browning is better, but Chase Brown, they said they would use him more, and they did. 3 for 80 and a receiving touchdown, and then 8 for 25 on the ground. But Browning with a rushing touchdown, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 to Chase Brown, 1 to Tanner Hudson, who had that in your bingo card. You might have had T. Higgins, 2 for 72, Joe Mixon, 3 for 46, a receiver, and then 21 carries, 79 yards, and 1 hard-fought rushing touchdown for him. Jamar Chase, 3 for 29. Okay. Tyler Boyd, 2 for 23. All right. But this is what we see with Jake Browning out there, but it was better than some thought and an easier win today at home.
Yeah, and a lot of people need to know about this offense because they're doing it with screens, explosive plays on screen passes. Chase Brown showing that speed on his touchdown. Joe Mixon had one. I think they've had 4 explosive plays on screens. And how does this work out, Cecil? Joe Burrow is out for the year with wrist surgery. Well, at least the Bengals can get in position for a good draft pick and build towards next year. No. Jake Browning, they needed to do better than Jake Browning as their backup. See? No. Jake Browning, a fantasy stud. Joe Mixon, not doing much with Burrow. Put in Browning and more Chase Brown, and all of a sudden Mixon is a great fantasy running back. Where does this come from? Mixon could have had 2 touchdowns, was stopped right at the goal line, and Browning got a rushing touchdown for that one. You have really Browning taking over a good offense, and maybe we are not giving credit to the design of these plays. Now, we get to Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase's first game with Browning, it was a deflected pass against the Steelers, or he would have been a bust like he was today. Second game, a lot of short passes, 1 long pass. Boy, you're sad if you left him on the bench. You're sad if you had him in today. You probably can't. You just can't put a player like Jamar Chase on the bench, but you can see the range of outcomes next week against Minnesota.
Yeah, never know what you're going to get. Jacksonville and Cleveland. The answer is Joe Flacco. The answer is Joe Flacco. Okay. 31-27. Browns get the win at home. They're 8-5. Jacksonville's 8-5. Trevor Lawrence 3 up and 3 down. I honestly can't believe he played. It's not season ending. Well, it was a high ankle sprain. I thought it would be a week or 2 at least. And he was out there. No CJ Beathard. Put CJ Beathard back away. Evan Ingram with 2 receiving touchdowns, 95 yards, 11 catches. Parker Washington, what the heck flex, pays off with the receiving touchdowns. Zay Jones, 5 for 29. Calvin Ridley, 4 for 53. Travis Etienne, 14 for 35 and a rushing touchdown, then 4 for 37 as a receiver. Bloom, let's talk about the Jaguars. And again, the surprising, Trevor Lawrence is going to play? And I think that happened. You get a full participation in on Thursday or Friday or both days, Bloom.
I think so. Yeah.
So we kind of saw it ahead of time. But if we rewind to our Tuesday waiver wire show, we're like, yeah, it'll be out, maybe a month, high ankle sprain.
Right.
Nope, not even a week.
Not even. And for fantasy, you did okay if you played him because Jacksonville was held down for a lot of this game. It was only an Amari Cooper fumble that set up the first offensive touchdown they had. Then when they were in catch-up mode in the second half, including a garbage time touchdown. So it was not a bad play if you started him. And you have to think each successive week, the leg's going to feel better. This would have been a costly loss if somebody in the AFC South wanted to win a game this week, but they maintained the lead. Evan Ingram. So we saw last week after CJ Beathard came in, he really only wanted to look for Evan Ingram, and Evan Ingram had a good game Monday night. Lawrence is in. Lawrence is only looking for Ingram. Ingram with the biggest game of his fantasy career. Travis Etienne, as always, doing his thing on volume. Like you said, there's a Parker Washington touchdown. He also had a fumble. No one else really standing out here. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to be as mobile or push the ball downfield as well as he can when he's healthy. Next week against Baltimore. So again, you got to watch this lead that we were talking about. Jacksonville's a potential number 1 seed. Now they're gonna have to scratch and claw because apparently nobody wants to win this division.
Nobody wants to win it. What about the Browns? and what they're doing with Joe
You mean the
Flacco.
playoff-bound Browns?
Playoff-bound Browns with a hot quarterback, Joe Flacco. 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. 2 of them to David Njoku, 1 to David Bell. Amari Cooper, the slant god, 7 for 77. Elijah Moore, 3 for 42. Jerome Ford, 5 for 31. Cedric Tillman, 2 for 23. Watch him in Dynasty. Anyway, Kareem Hunt with a rushing touchdown, and then Jerome Ford with 51 yards to lead the way on the ground. But we see what they want to do with Joe Flacco, and that's hit the tight end, hit Cooper on a slant god, and make sure he doesn't fumble, and, spread it around. How many receivers is this? 8? Yeah, 8 different players caught a pass today for the Browns. Good job, Joe.
I'm speechless, Cease. I mean, you watch this game long enough. There's senseless fantasy football sometimes. Some of these games are just terrible. Cease, imagine if we traveled back in time like 8-9 years, right? Joe Flacco just got a big contract from Baltimore and won a Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson is the new quarterback, like coming to Clemson, right? Like one day the Browns are going to give Deshaun Watson the first fully guaranteed contract, but Joe Flacco is going to save the season like 10 years from now. Maybe we all live to be old enough to see Joe Flacco save the Browns season. This is happening. This is a real NFL storyline. I got to give it up to the writers. There was a 4th down cover 0 play and this is why you want a Joe Flacco as your backup, right? This is why after the long and winding road through DTR, Walker, DTR, back to now DTR before we go to Flacco against a cover 0 blitz, he makes the right read, and David Bell just walks into the end zone. It was kind of the game-ending play, the game play that you knew, hey, this was the Browns' day. And David Njoku on the other side. Finally, this is one of the first games where you really could see those immense physical gifts. A Sashi Brown pick. Analytics say, wow, what can this guy turn into? I think he was a 20-year-old when they drafted him. He's maturing out there. Amari Cooper getting the 7 catches, had the fumble, but when Joe Flacco was out there, this is actually a downfield passing offense. This is a better pass offense with Flacco than it is with Watson. One guy was on the street. One guy cost 200-some million. Jerome Ford, by the way, he's looking good. Much like Rachaad White, he has shown, this is my backfield going forward. I'm the guy. I might not have been an early round draft pick, but I'm the guy, and I'm the guy for your fantasy team, even with Kareem Hunt getting a nice, stubborn touchdown there. This team is in the playoffs as of today. And dare I say, Cease, I don't think you want to face Joe Flacco in the first round of the playoffs. With this defense, if Myles Garrett is healthy, Kevin Stefanski offense, Flacco's been there, done that, and you can tell the team is feeding off of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll be a tough out. I feel the same way about the Broncos. We'll wind up with there, but like you face the Browns are the Broncos in the postseason, you'll probably know it afterwards.
Yeah.
Let's talk and move on. It's the Audible Week 14 recap. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom. Make sure you want to check out footballguys.com, and we appreciate you all. I noticed on YouTube, on our analytics, people are searching for the Audible Football Guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for searching them for us. We're here for you, and we have multiple shows per week. Make sure to subscribe to our audio podcast as well, not just our pretty faces on YouTube. And yes, I wear makeup. Anyway, let's talk about Carolina and the New Orleans Saints. And of course, the Saints won. I'm still worried about Derek Carr. 28-6, though. Let's just talk about this whole thing at once.
Yeah. There's not much here.
It's a slaughter, and Thielen is 5 for 74. Okay. Chuba Hubbard, 87. Right on. Miles Sanders, 74. Okay. Bryce Young, still not good.
Yeah.
I love A.T. Perry. He's their Tim Patrick, everybody. Jimmy Graham has, 4 receptions on the year, and 3 of them are touchdowns. Is that right?
Right.
Anyway, talk about Kamara. And then the Carr thing, it's just when you have 2 concussions in a month, I don't want to see him get a third.
Yeah, I don't either.
He was out there. They won easy. Let's talk about the entire game, Bloom, because it kind of sucked.
Yeah. On the Panther side, you did get 5 for 72 out of Thielen. You're thinking about it. It wasn't really a garbage time game. This one was 14-6 going into the fourth quarter. So you didn't have true garbage time. Maybe there'll be some true garbage time next week against Atlanta. It's up to Desmond Ridder. Miles Sanders did break off a long run, but Chuba Hubbard is still the guy if you're going to place one in this backfield. And Bryce Young just looks sad out there, Cease. Even when a number 1 overall pick is struggling, you see, well, that's why they made him, like the classic line. That's why he was the number 1 overall pick. Where are the plays that you could say that's why he was the number 1 overall pick?
They don't exist.
They don't exist. I'm not trying to say, let's call it, he's a bust, it's over, but it just is uncomfortable. It's so hard to watch. It was a quiet day on offense. You know why? Because Taysom Hill was out. Without Taysom Hill, it's going to be a boring day on offense. You did at least get a Chris Olave touchdown late. You got an Alvin Kamara run for a touchdown. So you also got more Jamal Williams, who had a few nice runs. They established the run early in this one. You also had a block punt touchdown. That's close to our hearts in New Orleans. Steve Gleason still out there. There's some sorry Joe jokes that he makes. If you ever check out his social media, he's got a good attitude as you can about having ALS. So we always like to remember that great moment in the Superdome and Saints history. Saints control their destiny now with the Giants coming.
Bloom, I will make this brief, and I didn't go as hard on Bryce Young, who was my number 1 quarterback, and Stroud was right there. And I always said, if it's 1 or 2, like whatever, if you have Stroud number 1, like I'm not going to lose my mind. Like Stroud, obviously very talented, but I will say this: I went hard for Trevor Lawrence, hard. Like this is one of those Andrew Luck type guys, and I still believe he is. His first season was not good. I think the last game, wasn't it the last game? Help my memory, Bloom. It was the last game of his rookie season, and we finally saw some Trevor Lawrence plays.
Yeah.
Does that happen with Young? I mean, maybe. We still have a month left.
Yeah. Well, will they let him play? I mean, the problem is, and I do think,
the problem is Dave Tepper.
Well, and the problem is also, I mean, there really might be a threshold. We've talked about this a few other times earlier this year on the show. There really might be a threshold. Height's not important. I mean, there are ways you can scheme around height and things like that, but you have to be physically formidable. And when you think about Kyler Murray and you think about Russell Wilson, they're solidly built. Drew Brees wasn't necessarily solidly built, but he never put himself in harm's way, really. And Bryce Young's not there. I guess Drew Brees is that career arc you want with Bryce Young, but you do see him look physically overwhelmed. And I think it is going to make teams go back to the drawing board if there's another Bryce Young coming anytime soon.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this thing. And again, I'm just going to tee you up for everything, brother, because it's Texans and Jets. And oh my God. And please just tell me CJ Stroud's going to be okay. Even if you have to lie to me, just say Stroud's going to be okay, because 30-6, Zach Wilson had to be talked back into being the starter. Jets are now 5-8. Texans are now 7-6, kind of in that cluster of 7-6 teams. I mean, there's some Garrett Wilson obviously did great for your fantasy team, and Breece Hall with 8 for 88 and 8 for 86, a touchdown, and 10 for 40 on the ground. Anyway, let's talk about the entire game. But what a beautiful morning, and what a shocker this was to have the Jets kick the crap out of the Texans.
Yeah, it really turned the Texans season around. When we say a game turns a team season around, we usually mean it positively, but this one was bad. Everything hit the skids in this one. Nico Collins leaves early. Jets defense is ferocious as ever. CJ Stroud leaves with I think a concussion evaluation. We'll see if it's a concussion, but we'll see if he's ready to play. And you take away Dell and you take away Collins. It was a calf. Those aren't usually just a tweak that they're back the next week. You take away Dell, you take away Collins, and even CJ Stroud against the Jets is not going to do much. Next week against Tennessee, he might do more, but now you're looking at this team, all of a sudden, inside track for a playoff spot now. You got work to do. The only offense they had was off of a Zach Wilson fumble, basically. At least Devin Singletary scored, and Devin Singletary was back in the lead back job. Thanks for letting us know. Whatever meritocracy they had in the backfield, it seemed like they were not doing that. It seemed like it was Dameon Pierce as the incumbent, and he'll be treated as such. So you did see Singletary look good, so there's some hope there. But is it going to be Davis Mills against Tennessee? And the Jets, I mean, see, I wasn't too little today, but it was too late.
Yeah, definitely too late on that side. Rams and Baltimore. They're on
Jets. I got to do the Jets side real quick. I forgot to do both.
I asked you to both, baby. So
yeah. Hall, Wilson. The interesting thing about Zach Wilson is, after all this, maybe because he had to be wooed back, Cease, maybe because they had to say, please, pretty please, will you play? He looked pretty good. And the offense looked good. And all of a sudden, these talents, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, were making making an impact, not just in fantasy, even Xavier Gibson, even the tight ends making plays. So the Jets play spoiler, which they like, against Miami next week.
Yeah, I mean, well, Aaron Rodgers, I can almost make it back. Oh, please. Please. All right, Rams and Ravens is up next, and Baltimore is a well-oiled machine that'll be tough to beat when it comes to the postseason. And in overtime, they get it done 37-31, the final score. Let's talk about the Rams side first. Matthew Stafford, 294, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. Cooper Kupp was struggling entering this game, 8 for 115 and a touchdown. Puka Nacua, 5 for 84. Davis Allen, 4 for 50 and a touchdown. Demarcus Robinson, remember him? 3 for 46 and a touchdown. Kyron Williams, 25 for 114. So almost Bloom. They almost get it, but in overtime, they can't hang on. But man alive, the Rams got some firepower.
Yeah, they look like a playoff team. And you go into Baltimore and you take Baltimore to the brink in overtime. That's a playoff quality team. We'll see if they make the playoffs on the basis of this performance. They should. Ravens defense vaunted. Conditions weren't great. Matthew Stafford, it was rough at first. Kyron Williams was the only one that could move the ball. Stafford found his groove, sidearm passes, doing his Matthew Stafford thing. Hey, this is how it is when you have a quarterback. You're in every game against every opponent. And you saw Puka Nacua with a good game. Cooper Kupp, not quite as sharp physically. You can tell that he's on the back nine of his career. But as this game went on, Baltimore started to make mistakes. This is one of the games of the year, by the way. If you can only watch one regular season game from this year, this is on the short list. It was a tremendous game. Even Davis Allen, speaking of Clemson, with a touchdown. Demarcus Robinson had a touchdown and also had a play that could have put, if the ball was a little bit sharper and he turned up field because Marlon Humphrey fell down, this game could have had a different outcome. Next week, they'll look like a playoff team when they play Washington.
Baltimore side, and Odell, was it a week or two ago, Bloom? You're like, he looks like the young Odell. Well, he's keeping doing it. 10 targets, 4 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. I love Isaiah Likely, 5 for 83 and a touch. So he's not Mandrews, but that's a Mandrews stat line.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers, I love him, 6 for 60. Why do I love so many Ravens and I can't stand the Ratbirds? Anyway, sorry. I know Brandon Stokely always goes, stop calling us the Ratbirds. No. Anyway, he got a touchdown, Super Bowl 35, the most boring Super Bowl of all time. Anyway, 6 for 60 and a touchdown for Zay Flowers. Nelson Aguilar, 5 for 32. So anyway, I guess Keaton Mitchell, big 27-yard run, whatever. Lamar does his thing, but like, dude, if these guys are on point, they still haven't even played their best football. But if these guys are on point, they can win the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And the road to the Super Bowl might go through Baltimore. We'll see. Maybe through Miami. And those two teams are going to play, I believe. So we'll get that settled out on the field. Really interesting stuff here. And if they don't win the Super Bowl, Cease, it's going to be because of something we pointed out all year and that has come up at times in Lamar Jackson's career. He's just a little casual with the ball sometimes. There was one play in this game that was a momentum shifter, and I don't know that this is truly on Lamar Jackson. I don't think it is, but there's a shotgun snap deep in their own end, and he wasn't even looking for it. The timing was off something. That stuff shouldn't be happening in week 14. That stuff shouldn't be happening. Okay, so those kinds of things, and then every now and then you'll see him loose with the ball. Although Matthew Stafford almost threw away the ball, threw one that could have been intercepted late in the game, ended up going to overtime anyway. Likely scores on a blown coverage. Beckham scores on a blown coverage. So Lamar Jackson wasn't playing great early, but he was finding his guys downfield on blown coverages. And then late, when he needed to make the drive, it was Zay Flowers, and then Zay Flowers for 2. And it was like on a 3rd and 17. But Stafford again with the drive with about a minute left to send this one to overtime. And it's not Stafford or Lamar Jackson that is the hero. Tylan Wallace, who's only in there because Devin Duvernay got hurt. So he's not even the number 1 punt returner. Oklahoma State Cowboys, baby. That one's for Doug Drennan. Wow. A scintillating punt return. And not the first one we've had this year as a walk-off. Xavier Gibson actually did it back in week 1. And see, you know what I loved about this? How often do you see the quarterback in the pile? When everybody was piling on Tylan Wallace after he took that one to the house to end that game.
Yeah.
You love seeing, and they're like, don't get hurt. And you're like, don't get hurt. We all watched the World Baseball Classic. Baseball, Edwin Diaz. We were in the Mets season when Puerto Rico won over Dominican. My point is, you love to see that. Here's all else you love to see coming out of the bye. 43 pass attempts, 15 running back rush attempts. Remember all that talk this offseason? Todd Monken offense. Lamar Jackson he's got Zay Flowers. He's got all these guys. Odell Beckham, he's going to throw the ball to Mark Andrews. Okay, maybe not Mark Andrews. I say likely. It happened today. It happened. It was beautiful. And now they face Jacksonville.
We've seen this team get hot in December before. They might just be doing that again. The audible continues with Minnesota and the Raiders. Sometimes, Bloom. And we were pissed about 6-0 last week, Chargers and Patriots, right? Although there was inclement weather, like 3-0.
3-0. And it was 3-0. It was nothing until like late in the fourth quarter.
You won't be shocked to know I'm going to send this entire game at you because there is nothing. Josh Dobbs is a great story. He's not a great quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh my God. 3-0 and the Vikings win. Oh my God.
Yeah. Nick Mullins comes in. Joshua Dobbs gets benched. Justin Jefferson gets hurt immediately. A chest injury, had to go to the hospital. So we're going to see about that. This team's in the playoffs right now. So, Alexander Madison, I think, got a little banged up here. TJ Hawkinson's the one guy you can set your watch by as far as fantasy prospects. They're going to face Minnesota. It's going to go to Cincinnati next week. Raiders, all I can think about this one is what's Al Davis thinking from where I was looking up, looking down, teleporting in and out, whatever, is coming next. Al Davis, this is what happened to my team. This is my team. Josh Jacobs got hurt in this game, knee injury. Not sure how long he's going to be out. And the Raiders, oh boy, you want to talk about a game potentially more pathetic than this one, Cease? Raiders Chargers next week.
Why does Brandon Staley have a job?
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Are cheap.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We got 3 games left here on the Audible. It's our Week 14 recap. Make sure to do the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Thank you for watching. We've got 3 games left, so let's do this thing. Chat room, stay fired up because Seattle and San Francisco, I don't care what the records are. I don't care who's playing quarterback. This is always fun. This is always interesting. So Seattle, San Francisco is our next game, and San Francisco wins. I believe, Bloom, correct me if I'm wrong, they're the first team to clinch a playoff spot.
Yes.
They're winning. They're 10-3. They're going. And it's San Francisco, Baltimore Super Bowl. I mean, that's the way things are trending. Rematch. Hopefully the lights stay on this time. But let's talk about Seattle side first because it was Drew Lock in. Geno Smith inactive for this game. So here comes Drew Lock. And, well, DK Metcalf had a touchdown. Colby Parkinson had a touchdown. He targeted Noah Fant 4 times, so he tried getting it to his buddy. Tyler Lockett, 6 for 89. Zach Charbonnet, 9 for 44 in this one. So, and Seattle goes up 10-7 at halftime. It's 14-10. So you're still in this, right? You can still run balanced. They only ran it 20 times. They passed it 31 times with Drew Lock, sacked 4 times on this day. What did we learn about Seattle?
Yeah, not much. I mean, that this team is going to have to really rally to get in the playoffs. Drew Lock didn't look terrible. He wasn't overmatched. He didn't look like a joke out there. The touchdown to DK Metcalf came early. It was one where I don't think the defensive back picked it up. Travarius Ward got hurt in this game also. And like you said, you had a Parkinson touchdown. You had some chemistry with Tyler Lockett, so it might be a 2-week injury for Geno Smith against Philadelphia next week. Seattle, again, the hits keep on coming for this team that's going through a really rough part of their schedule. And they had a split backfield, so that's no good for us. Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker. Again, Philly's defense not quite the tough out that San Francisco's, but it is a tough out. But it is all about San Francisco right now. And since we say this at various points in the season, like this team would love it if the Super Bowl was next week. It's not next week. So that's the thing with San Francisco. We've already seen them peak once this year. We saw health issues, Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel getting banged up, and they go into a 3-game losing streak. They're peaking now, but can they continue to peak in the playoffs?
Yeah, Jordan Mason gets the rushing touchdown. Deebo Samuel gets a rushing touchdown as well. But McCaffrey, what was that? The big 72-yarder, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Mason comes in and gets it. Whatever. McCaffrey still had 16 for 145 on the ground. Only a catch for 8 yards. But George Kittle had 3 for 76 and a touch. Brandon Ayuk had 6 for 126. Remember when he was in the doghouse years ago? Look at the work that he's done. Deebo Samuel putting in the work, 7 for 149 and a touchdown, plus that rushing touchdown. Brock Purdy, 368. 2 up and 1 down. Yeah, they want the playoffs to start soon. because, man, when they're on,
Yeah.
nobody can beat them.
Well, Cecil, I bring this up occasionally because I like saying that I grew up in the town next over from Joe Montana. But you get, and I'm not saying Brock Purdy, Joe Montana, but you get the Joe Montana vibes about just the inevitability of this offense. And what I mean by that is you can hold them down for a few drives. You can get some stops. They can have some self-inflicted wounds, but eventually they're going to get you. They're going to get you. It's just too many ways that they can beat you. Deebo Samuel's healthy, y'all. It's week 14 and he's healthy. He's got deep speed in week 14. Watch out. George Kittle can beat you on any given play for a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk, he fumbled in this one, but he can get deep. He can get open on you. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey. Wow. And this offense it's just too good. Arizona, they have the job to try to slow them down. Next week, I just see either this team's going to go to the Super Bowl, or I can't wait to see how the team that stops them from doing that does it.
Right. I'm not sure unless they do it to themselves. I want everyone to stay healthy with the 49ers. It seems like we're always missing something, right? They get there, they're hot, and then something's missing at the end. I want them to be full strength, full go. And playing Baltimore be pretty damn cool. Let's talk about Buffalo and Kansas City. A pretty damn cool game for us to discuss. Almost done here on the Week 14 recap. The Buffalo Bills get out to a lead. But hang on, 20-17 is the final score as they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And this time it was an Arrowhead. Of course, the Bills have to feel pretty good about that, knowing their history at Arrowhead. Josh Allen, 233, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, also 1 rushing touchdown. James Cook, 10 for 58 on the ground, and then 5 for 83 in a receiving touchdown. Dawson Knox, 3 for 36. Stephon Diggs, 4 for 24. And, Dalton Kincaid, 5 for 21 because Dawson Knox was back. So, there you go. But they win, Bloom, and as a team that's going to have to claw back in this thing, it's a big win for their playoff hopes.
Massive. 7-6 looks so different than 6-6. It looks so different, especially with a lot of teams that were 7-5 losing today. Wow, what a game for Buffalo. And it was another game, Cease, where it should have been easier. They outplayed Kansas City by much more than the score indicates. Both of these teams, if they get 20 points, they win. It sounds like the Broncos last year. They got to 20, so they won. Josh Allen, a lot of short passing. We've seen this. But most importantly, short passing to James Cook. That gets the Keanu kiss. James Cook, 140 or so total yards, a receiving touchdown in this one. And these offensive coordinator changes, like Matt Canada getting ousted, sometimes it doesn't stick, but sometimes it does. And one thing Joe Brady is doing is getting James Cook involved and getting passes to the running back. Even Latavius Murray had 21 on his reception in this one. So that's something to watch going forward. Not as much otherwise, Diggs and Gabe Davis and Dalton Kincaid. And like you said, with Dawson Knox back, there might not be as much there for Kincaid. And that these are just the things that happen. The Bills, here's the other thing, Cease. They got some breaks. They got some calls. Some things actually went for them in this game. When there was a flag on the field, it actually went for them in this game. And who were the big boogeymen if you're a Bills fan? Well, of this era, it's the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a memory, it's the Cowboys. That's who they play next week.
Still got to win.
Yeah.
Got to keep it going. Flea flicker play. I'm knee deep in Broncos, Bloom. So let's talk about it. We're getting some questions about the flea flicker.
Yeah.
And Kadarius Toney. Samuel asks, love to hear both of your thoughts on Toney offsides and the post-game comments from Mahomes and Reed. I was doing the Broncos post-game show. Sick brag, bro. So, Bloom, you're going to have to carry the weight on this one.
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay. On the Kansas City side, still, Kansas City has a good defense. We knew it was going to be difficult for Buffalo at times. Buffalo's defense has been banged up, but Kansas City still having trouble moving the ball. And you did see McKinnon do something, get a touchdown here. So he's going to be with Pacheco out for, I don't know, maybe a few weeks, not on IR, but IR was discussed. You had Rashee Rice. He has arrived. He's in our lineup every week. He gets a touchdown. He ties Travis Kelce for targets, leading the team with 7 catches. But there was a play as Buffalo was up 2017. Kansas City's driving. They hit Kelsey, and Kelsey, because he's Travis Kelsey, turns into a rugby player, basically. As he's in the open field, he's looking, as tacklers are being drawn to him at around the 20, 25-yard line. He sees Kadarius Toney, throws it across the field. By the way, Frank Wycheck has transitioned to join the Ancestors. I don't know if you saw that, Cecil. Frank Wycheck.
Really?
Remember Frank Wycheck? Yeah.
Of course. 52. Yeah.
Too young, man. Too many football players dying too young. Anyway, I don't mean to anyway that, because that's a solemn moment. But it was that kind of throw. You remember with Wycheck, it was that kind of throw. And they brought up, Travis Kelsey used to be a high school quarterback. Yeah, it would have been one of the plays of the year. It would have been like, geez, this is how the Bills lost now? Is Travis Kelsey just decides to throw a lateral across the field to Kadarius Toney? But isn't that Kadarius Toney in a play, Cease? The flag is down. His foot was in the neutral zone. Kadarius Toney lined up with his foot in the neutral zone on the play. So it was called back.
And he ain't a rookie.
Well, right, but isn't that just Kadarius Toney in a nutshell, right? I mean, he can be out there and make a sensational play and be heads up and running down the field parallel with Travis Kelsey, so because they practice that stuff, right? I mean, Kelsey, I'm sure, says, "Hey, if there's a play and I'm running in the open field, look alive, because I might throw the ball to you." And Andy Reid knows that. Well, you just got to let him do it, just like you let Patrick Mahomes do what Patrick Mahomes does. So. And the Chiefs can't recover from that, that amazing. And look, Josh Allen still would have had a minute or plus left. So I'm not saying the game was over if that play had counted. But now you have Kansas City looking at probably having to play a playoff game on the road. Watch things break so they won't have to. But also just a flawed team. Cease, they're all flawed except the 49ers. They're a flawed team. They're a beatable team.
Yeah. Chat room is saying Mahomes threw a fit. At the end of the game, you heard I think it was Nance and Romo saying, "I've never seen Patrick Mahomes like this." So that's a sign that he knows that this team is flawed, that he knows it's not going to come the way it has in years past for this team, and that was a really important loss. That was a loss that's going to make their path a lot harder. And it's a loss that makes Buffalo grow a few sizes in terms of their confidence. And if they play again in the playoffs, and may they, for all of our benefit, because every time these teams get together, it is just some incredible stuff we watch go down. So yes, you could see at the end of the game, when the game was over, Mahomes actually was emotional and frustrated and blaming it on the refs or whatever it was that made him so frustrated. So he knows. But I think, again, what that sets up is we got 4 weeks left in the season. And a lot of playoff spots are going to be determined by who are the best teams for just those 4 weeks. And then the playoffs are wide open. I mean, certainly the AFC bracket. I'm not saying like some of these, Cleveland's not going to the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. I mean, there are going to be some teams that Denver's not going to the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. However, you can see this as a wide open bracket because Mahomes is flustered, because this offense is flawed, because this team is beatable. Well, not like Baltimore couldn't do it on their own, Bloom, but here's what happens with a team like the Broncos or the Browns. They play spoiler and they make the path easier for Baltimore because a Browns team or a Broncos team can take out a Kansas City.
Right.
Or a Buffalo. Right. The teams that you would be a little nervous if you're facing. The Ravens have a path to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. They better take it because it'd be pretty exciting to see Lamar Jackson playing for it all. Denver and the Chargers, to wrap it up, Bloom, we don't have to do much. Justin Herbert was hurt. Okay. That's all you need to know. Justin Herbert and Herbert's so flummoxed by the Broncos, who play great defense. Samaje Perine was okay, although he was a DNP on Friday with the knee, and they called up Tyler Beatty, whatever. Beatty was inactive. We didn't learn much here. Javante's a 3.9 a carry, not 3.5 a carry. Jaleel got a little bit more work. They tried with Jerry Jeudy because Sean Payton loves Jerry Jeudy. He still loves him. It doesn't work, right? As you're laughing there. Cortland Sutton with the one-handed catch for a touchdown. The Chargers side, Easton Stick comes in. So, I mean, Eckler looked a little bit better, but they didn't stick with the run. And honestly, the score wasn't indicative of how truly one-sided this game was, as the Denver Broncos beat the Los Angeles Chargers. make it look pretty easy today, 24/7. So let's talk about the whole thing. Let's wrap this thing up.
Sure. Yeah, Russell Wilson solid, Javonte Williams solid, nifty move on his touchdown run. But like you said, Cease, the ceiling's not there with Williams. But when they control a game, the touches are going to be there to make him worth putting in your lineup. Cortland Sutton, the play of the day. Yeah, no pass interference is going to stop him from catching that touchdown. And that makes you feel better about continuing to put him in your lineup as a wide receiver 3 flex. And yeah, this team, I mean, this is what a playoff team does. They thump bad teams. They're not playing a bad team next week in Detroit, which means we get to record the recap after the early game sees. Herbert with the I almost said broken finger. I don't know. His index finger, he's out for the game. I don't know if we're going to see him again this year. You did see all of a sudden Easton Stick, Quentin Johnson can catch a ball downfield. He can get open downfield and catch it. Whoa, hey. Well, maybe there's some confidence. We know how important confidence is. Quentin Johnson didn't have much earlier this year. Eckler gets a touchdown. There's some confidence. Keenan Allen did okay. I mean, look, Easton Stick, if he has to start for the rest of the season, is not going to kill the value of these players. And he's not going to be Jake Browning. Maybe he is, but it won't matter. Next week against Las Vegas, well, yeah, some good old quarterback evaluation, because I don't know why else you would watch that game.
Yeah, not fun. Not good. Anyway, are we good for today? We good?
It was good. Yeah, and I think it's hopefully, the Rams and the Ravens, the Chiefs and the Bills, I hope it gets your juices flowing for games with a lot on the line. You see Lamar Jackson, you see Patrick Mahomes, you see how much it means to these guys, and that's what keeps us coming back.
That keeps us coming back, and we appreciate you for jumping on board with us here on The Audible. He's Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. Irons Cat, we love you, and your team's going to win it all. So love that.
You're blooming them. It's not going to work. You can't Lammey a team.
Ha. Blammy. That's what we are. Oh man, Kyle says YouTube fixed the notifications. Sorry, Kyle. Check out or rewatch the show. We appreciate that. I got the timestamps in already, baby. So you can skip to the game you want to skip to. Anyway, as we grow our YouTube channel, we really appreciate you. The growth has been fantastic. Always shout out Alfredo Brown. So let's do the YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And I always thank Sasha from Casually Comics because I got that outro from her. Anyway, go watch your Sunday night game. We'll be here. He's Sig. I'm Cease. Everyone stay tuned and stay frosty.